Hi everyone, I'm Ava, and welcome back to Your Financial Journey. Now, one of the things that my siblings and I love is the penny. We've actually had many dinner conversations on this topic, but more on that later. So we were a little sad when earlier this week, President Trump decided to kill further production of the penny. On Truth Social, President Trump wrote, "For far too long, the United States has minted pennies which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful. I've instructed my Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time." And according to this Associated Press article, where they spoke to a legal scholar from Harvard University, President Trump really can order the Treasury to stop minting pennies without Congress's approval, because U.S. code gives the Treasury Secretary the authority to mint and issue coins in amounts the Secretary decides are necessary to meet the needs of the United States. So if Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent decides the necessary amount for the penny is 0, he's within his legal rights. But the article does go on to say that Congress would still need to make Trump's order permanent through law, or else the next Treasury Secretary could bring back the penny. And past congressional efforts to ditch the penny by law have all failed. So who knows, maybe the penny won't be gone for good. At this point, I'm sure you're wondering, just like my mom was when we first started the great penny debate at our dinner table, why is it so hard to get rid of the penny if it's so expensive to mint? That's why in today's video, we're going to break down both sides of the arguments and answer the big question. Should the US get rid of the penny? Buckle up, because this debate might just change the way you look at spare change forever. Let's start off with the arguments for ditching the penny. Reason 1. The penny is a money-losing machine. Right off the bat, here's the most ridiculous fact about pennies. In fiscal year 2024, it costs 3.69 cents of taxpayer money per piece to make our 1 cent coin. A loss of 2.69 cents per coin. And this is the 19th consecutive fiscal year when the cost of minting a penny is more than its actual value, meaning that for the past 19 years, we've been losing money on every penny we mint. And it's no small amount. The US Mint cranked out 3.2 billion pennies last year. That's about $86 million in savings right there if we stopped this money-making activity. That's money that could be spent on schools, roads, healthcare, or literally anything more useful than a coin nobody even wants. Moving on now to reason 2. Practically nobody uses pennies. And I'm not just referring to the fact that so many people pay with cards and payment apps nowadays. As my mom likes to complain, even parking meters don't take pennies. Toll booths don't take them, and neither do vending machines. From what I've seen, most people just let their pennies pile up in jars or bowls around the house or office. And at our local pharmacy, one of the few places where my mom still pays in cash, they don't even take pennies. They just round everything up to the nearest nickel or dime. And as if being unpopular and wasting money weren't enough, reason 3 is that pennies waste a lot of time. It seems like even cashiers don't like pennies, because they slow everything down. According to Coinstar for Retail, a study conducted by Walgreens and the National Association of Convenience Stores found that having to handle pennies can add as much as 2.5 seconds to a cash transaction. As the study reports, this might not sound like a lot of time on its own, but when you multiply 2.5 seconds by the millions of purchases Americans make every day, that's hundreds of thousands of hours a year we waste just fumbling around with pennies. Reason 4. Other countries have already ditched their pennies with success. New Zealand stopped issuing their 1 cent coin in 1990, and Australia ditched theirs in 1992. Canada stopped minting the penny in 2012, and stopped using them altogether in 2013. They just started rounding to the nearest nickel. So let's face it, the world probably won't end if we stop minting pennies. And finally, reason 5 for getting rid of the penny is that inflation has made pennies practically worthless. It might seem crazy, but once upon a time, a penny could actually buy something. In 1970, 1 penny was worth about 8 cents today. According to my mom, when she first came to the US around that time, she could buy a Bazooka Joe with a penny. I don't even know what that is, but at least it's something. Today, even the cheapest candy from our local grocery store costs more than 25 cents. I wish I could buy a Bazooka Joe. Do you know what a Bazooka Joe is? So, if we look at these 5 reasons, and the first one in particular, there seems to be a strong case for getting rid of the penny. But could there be a case for keeping it? That brings us to the next part of today's video. Reason 1. Rounding could make everything more expensive. This is my personal favorite reason for keeping the penny. If pennies disappear, stores will need to start rounding to the nearest nickel. And in all likelihood, they'll probably round up rather than down. Because let's face it, stores won't want to miss out on that extra profit. That means that your $9.97 total might become $10 instead of $9.95. And over time, that adds up. Especially for teens like me, and college students too, because we count on every cent. And we're not the only ones who care about pennies. Because reason 2 is that many charities depend on pennies. Some charities, especially smaller ones, love pennies because people donate them without a second thought. If pennies disappear, those donations might dry up, making it harder for charities to help those in need. Reason 3. Lincoln is an American icon. Abraham Lincoln has been on the penny since 1909, and some people argue that eliminating the penny means taking away part of Lincoln's legacy in U.S. history. Sure, he's on the $5 bill, but for some Americans, the penny is a daily reminder of one of our nation's greatest presidents. So maybe take a closer look at a penny if you haven't before. Moving on now to reason 4. Getting rid of the penny could raise the cost of minting coins overall. For example, if the nickel is meant to replace the penny as the lowest coin denomination in circulation, the Treasury might have to produce more nickels. Which sounds fine at first, but nickels are actually more expensive to mint than pennies. As I mentioned earlier, in fiscal year 2024, the unit cost for a penny was 3.69 cents. Well, the unit cost for a nickel was 13.78 cents. That's right. It costs 13.78 cents to produce our 5-cent coin, or about 3.7 times more to produce a nickel than a penny. That means that the US Mint loses money on every nickel it makes as well. So if we end up replacing our pennies with nickels, it wouldn't make sense from a cost perspective. Here's a fun fact for you. Our modern day penny is actually made of 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. They used to be made up of 100% copper before the price of copper started going up in the 1980s. Finally, reason 5 for keeping the penny. Some people just love pennies, like my siblings and I. As many of you know, I come from a family of savers. And another favorite saying of my mom's is, do the numbers and see if it works. So given that the penny is a money-losing machine, as I mentioned earlier, you'd think that we would be for getting rid of it. But in this case, we actually fall into team keep the penny, because it's the penny. Maybe it's because of nostalgia, maybe it's because of history, or maybe it's just because it's part of our American culture and tradition. But we really do love our pennies. What about you? Do you think we should get rid of the penny or keep it? And why? Is it because one of the reasons here, or do you have your own reason for ditching it versus keeping it? Leave a comment below and let us know. As for us, we're keeping all our pennies. Because if President Trump does manage to get the Treasury to stop making them, maybe the jars of pennies we have around the house will be worth a bit more in the future than they are now. And some rare pennies, like the 1943 copper penny, are worth a few $100,000 to even $1 million. Maybe I should go rummage through those penny jars next week. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe to our channel if you liked this video. See you again next time.